We're here at the residence of the High Commissioner of Canada to Jamaica for an evening of meaningful conversations and connections. What is it about? The Caribbean-Canada Leaders Dialogue Summit. Let's check out the highlights. I am Melvin Pennant, and this is PBCJ's Agenda Jamaica.
To the official residence of Canada as we gather here to celebrate the Jamaica leg of the 2025 Canada Caribbean Leadership Dialogue, or CCLD 2025. And this evening we're honored to host 12 delegates who are coming from countries across the Caribbean and Canada, who are part of the 100 emerging leaders from Canada and the Caribbean selected for this year's cohort. And those of you who are part of those 12 delegates, you've just returned from the Canada study tour and are now well into your exploration of leadership here in your tour in Jamaica. You survived the winter. Congratulations. I'm surviving the heat, but I would rather survive the heat than the winter. And I know you have 2 more impactful days ahead before the final stop in Barbados. And we're also pleased to be joined by CCLD alumni led by Lisa Bell and Colin Ebanks, whose continued engagement reminds us that leadership isn't just about a moment in time. It's about a lifelong commitment to learning, growing, and giving back. You, the 12, are representing more than just yourselves. You're representing the future of your country, of the region, and of our shared global community. And I urge you to continue listening closely, thinking boldly, and leading with compassion and courage. And I want to say this: it takes courage to step forward and offer leadership in today's challenging world. Never, ever take it for granted. In a world where we're facing many challenges, and many have called a global leadership crisis, opportunities like these are more important than ever. And if I may borrow a word from Canada's new Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Mark Carney, leadership is the acceptance of responsibility rather than the assumption of power.
Let me acknowledge, of course, the distinguished persons who gather here today, the entire team of 12 and all who are supporting you. I know you have your alumni in Ms. Bell and in Colin Banks, and I imagine several other persons who are affiliated with our High Commissioner who are assisting you to enjoy this time. So welcome to Jamaica. You have under 48 hours based on what I'm told. So let me tell you how it works here. With 48 hours to go in this country, there's no sleep. You shouldn't consider that a priority. If I were you, I would try to make the most of the days of all of the 48 hours. I had the opportunity some years ago to also be a part of a similar program. And I must tell you, these programs are a springboard. And like any other springboard, it depends on how you jump on it. It depends on how you utilize the opportunity. And the reality is, this is a time, if you're shy, to put it aside. Meet everyone. Speak to all persons. Get every number. And ensure that you create a Rolodex. This is your opportunity to network with leaders. And the most important leaders are not the ministers. It is those delegates that are with you right now. They will be the next minister, next high commissioner, next private sector CEO, inventor, investor, whatever it is. I still get phone calls from my classmates from the program we did in USVI. And so that's my recommendation to you. And remember me telling you this: jump. Just jump. Take the risk and get it done. One love.
We're going to move into a Q&A session because it's really about you delegates, and you have the opportunity here, a High Commissioner and a Minister of Government, to dialogue with them.
So we've had a wonderful time here in Jamaica, and thank you to our host as well for giving us the opportunity to meet with so much distinguished leaders that we can learn from. And one of the themes that we've seen, with so many different individuals from the Caribbean, we're seeing a lot of commonalities in trade, a lot of commonalities in some of the challenges we face as Caribbean countries as well. We also hear about the partnerships happening with Canada and Jamaica, and also the drive to bring in other foreign partners to really drive economics. But what is being done between the different Caribbean countries and with our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean? Is there really good partnerships forming? Is there opportunities to create more partnerships? And maybe what are some of the challenges as well, making us connect and really become a united Caribbean?
I've always struggled, I believe, with the various members moving towards their individual development and not having that internal feeling that they're in a position to truly expand towards collaboration just yet. So I believe that there has been a strengthening of the collaboration, but there is so much more that can be done, which is stymied, particularly, I think, because of the challenges as simple as transport among the region. It's easier for you to get to Miami than for you to get to St. Kitts. And I think that that's one of the issues that we have continued to speak about at the CARICOM level, which we're just going to at some point have to treat with in terms of how are we going to provide for a passageway for persons in the Caribbean to have an easier pathway to visit, to travel, because that's one of the routes for you to move from just being a visitor to being an investor, to becoming even a citizen of more than one of our countries, and to truly have that collaboration.
I think I speak on behalf of all of the delegates here that we consider ourselves very blessed to be able to partake in this opportunity. Now, I just want to follow up on that question, Minister, because I find that we all are very special to have this, this caring and collaborative relationship with Canada. I myself am a product of that, originally from the Bahamas, but educated in Canada. So I myself have experienced the idea of living abroad and really getting to understand that, the connection between the Caribbean and Canada on a deeper level. But to follow up on the question that you mentioned, again, in the Caribbean, I find that a lot of us countries, we have similar goals, we have similar pasts, we have similar histories, we have similar aspirations, but in a lot of cases, we happen to often outsource our experience, or we happen to outsource, advice from more developed countries. So more so digging on the question that you asked, how we as young leaders now in the Caribbean can encourage our governments, encourage our different sectors and societies to be more collaborative with each other, to build a stronger Caribbean identity, not saying that, not being connected with the outside world, but what are some tangible steps that we can take to foster that Caribbean interregionally?
A lot of the discussions around the challenges in terms of the region they're not new. These are long-standing conversations we've been having for decades. And if you are to analyze, you will find that perhaps with every decade we've been able to chip away at some of the issues, treat them. And that has come through leadership, through very deliberate and strategic ways of defining solutions. And I think that that's where you step in. You step in by understanding the challenge, identifying exactly what the issue is, and as a younger emerging leaders, finding ways through your network that you're creating now to ensure that the next phase of the region is a more collaborative one, and that you address the challenges at a very early stage. You have the opportunity of innovation now. We have the opportunity of being able to assess all of the mistakes or perhaps the issues that have not been addressed, and to find ways of challenging yourself to create the new regional collaboration that you want. And I think that's where the young emerging leadership will have its opportunity to stand out and distinguish itself. Find ways to really solve all of the things we've been discussing.
Much of what I've seen traveling, I've lived all over the world for a long time. Much of what I've seen is when you have collaboration happening, usually it is led by business. Today, the Jamaica Stock Exchange hosts Trinidad's richest companies. There's a reason for that. We have no currency controls here and so on. Different reasons. But that's where we have a strength. I would think that it would make sense, yes, as you get richer, you will want to have your own. But we need to make sure that we use what is good for all. We tend to want to compete. We all want to own the whole of a little grape rather than a big slice of a big melon, preferably from St. Elizabeth, where I'm from. Okay? So I must tell you that maybe, not maybe, in my view, arguably the best invention of Western capitalism is called the limited liability company. So you have a limited liability company registered in Trinidad, you put it on Jamaica Stock Exchange, everybody from Bahamas and United States or the Middle East can buy into that stock market, or of course from Canada. So we need to see how we collaborate. We tend to be competitive too much, and we tend to, all of us do the same thing, rather than come together and agree and say, look at Guyana. Guyana has 215,000 square kilometers, enough rivers to cover half of South America, all the water you could want. And how many people they have? 780,000 people, which is why they have such a high per capita GDP as the oil price money comes in. So we now know, and Guyana has offered, and Barbados has been involved. We must look at it as we come from Jamaica, where we have a considerable amount of farming experience. Do we focus and then look at making Guyana the farm place of the Caribbean? Yes, we will have farms in Jamaica, but you want to run a farm of 200 acres, 2,000 acres? Let's do Guyana, and maybe we should focus on that start there.
A lot of times, people just fall prey to not checking their personal biases, which could cause a lot of conflict and tension in a team environment. So as a leader, what do you do in that moment of impulse, or even if it's not in the moment of impulse, generally, what do you do to check those biases to be sure that decisions you're making are very objective, in the best interest of a group, and just maybe fair?
I think that the approach to leadership would have to be grounded in your understanding of what it is to be a leader, to be an advocate, to be a champion, to be a servant. And it will require you to go through experiences where you make mistakes and where you learn. And I believe that throughout that leadership journey, you will reach a point where you understand that the primary objective of being a strong servant leader is not to shy away from your own personal opinions, but to be able to distinguish between you having an opinion as a leader, but respecting the persons that are supportive of you, that are supporting you, and that you are serving. It means you have to understand the parameters within which you're leading. You must know if it is that you're involved in a particular ministry, for instance, what is the law that guides the action that you are relating to? What is the policy that you are guided by? Those things are frameworks that are supposed to keep you within check, keep you focused, and keep you driven in the right direction.
I think that leadership is a continual process, and we'll all make mistakes. I think at this stage in my career, I've got to say that communication, respect, listening, dialogue are vital. I know that I get more from listening to my team and my colleagues than I do from thinking I know it all, and because I don't. And I've made mistakes, and I've learned along the way. You don't suddenly become a leader. You don't suddenly even become a manager. And they're not necessarily the same thing. One is a position title, one is something that you grow into. But it takes time, it really does. And I think we're getting better at it. I think, I can only talk from the Canadian government. We put a lot of effort into respect within the civil service. We do intercultural training, we do understanding, we do 360s, understanding the perspectives of everybody, and respecting everybody within the system. Within a structure, you may have the responsibility for something, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're always right, or that you have a monopoly on the right decision.
Clearly, I have lived a few years in my life. I've lived all over the world, 21 years, for instance, in the Middle East, in Asia, Europe, elsewhere. And I look around the world and look at what leadership is and the roles that I've had to play. And I'm very convinced that if you do not have a moral compass, you can end up anywhere. I want to repeat that. If you do not have a moral compass, you can end up anywhere. Mine, I know, is based on the Judeo-Christian principle. That's my choice. That's what I believe. But I also know that very often we misunderstand other people that we deal with. Mm-hmm. And many of us do not want to have a moral compass. We do not want to choose between right and wrong. Being a leader means that you have to choose.
Throughout this dialogue and in life, oftentimes when we talk about collaboration between Canada and the Caribbean, it is often focused on the big four, and that leaves us small island people overlooked. My question is, and overlooked even if we have things not like finance, capital, and resources, but we might have intangible models and social programs that could be beneficial to the rest of the Caribbean and Canada. So my question is, are there any plans to incorporate the smaller islands into more collaborative efforts and do so in a way that still preserves our dignity?
I had the opportunity to go to St. Vincent, and there we had regional cooperation with many of the other countries, larger and smaller. As Minister of Climate Change, particularly, that's where we really saw, I think, the most collaboration among states, the small island developing states, where no matter what size, we are all in the same region with the same risk attendant. And so you really saw greater collaboration and I think more focused partnership despite where you were, north, south, in the Caribbean, no matter what, because we all have the same issues, whether it is 100 persons or 100,000 persons or 10 million, we all have the same issues. And I think that portfolio was the best example of where we could have the strongest collaboration. And it arose from the natural commonality of risk attendant to all of us being in this particular geographical space. And from that, we need to have much more purposeful discussions on how we can collaborate. So even outside of just the climate change issues, in agriculture, we were having, I would say, much advanced discussions around how we could see different types of innovative processes and different types of cultivation practices in the smaller countries. I went to Cayman, for instance, for their festival around food, and saw some of the innovation that they were using there. And we started some exchange of knowledge and information around how we could not only trade, but how we could have that exchange of our experiences around food security. So I say that to say that it is happening.
What roles does the labor movement in Jamaica play today, and how do they contribute to the social and economic development?
What we do at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security is to drive social dialogue between the trade unions, between the Federation of Employers and the government. And Jamaica has a unique and distinct tripartite relationship that comes under what we call the Labor Advisory Council, where we have created an environment where we can speak freely and openly, and we can work together across the table to, as best as possible, create what we call industrial harmony, where you can disagree, where you can have the trade unions who have the responsibility of protecting the rights of the workers and advancing their collective objectives. They can protest freely, they can express themselves freely, and we can come to a table and have a conversation moving towards solutions. And we've proven that time and time again. Where very, very big problems, we've been able, through the respect that is almost inherent in that advisory council, to tackle it by opening up the space for social dialogue to really go to the underlying issues and to find ways of creating that negotiation balance.
I think this program will definitely help me think strategically as a leader, and also remember that respect and collaboration and thinking as we all have one common goal, and is to work together cohesively, and just remember to be human and respectful with one another.
This is about collaborations, and there's 100 of us, and then even in our group is 12. And part of being a storyteller is stepping into the shoes and seeing through the eyes of someone else. And if you're not able to do that, you can't really tell their story with respect. So this is teaching me how to navigate very strong personalities, but with respect and with smoothness. And even when there are bumps in the road, to find ways to make it smooth, and then come out on the other side even better than you were before. So this is the ideal opportunity for somebody like me.
So far, the key thing has been cross-collaboration. Every single stop that we have made on the tour has been informative, has made connections for us from what is happening in the Canada, what is happening in the Caribbean, and what is happening back home. And home for me is the Bahamas. And what we are learning are not things that are unknown to me from the Bahamas perspective, but knowing how someone else does it, knowing what the best practices are in different places is really informing my decisions moving forward. And I know that from here, it's going to be amazing.
As a trade unionist back home, I think this program provided an opportunity for me to enhance my leadership skills. Also, it taught me how to work well with others. We were brought into a program for less than 10 days, and we were forced to get along with strangers. And it is something that I have not been a part of my life. So being a part of a cohort, which we found out to be good synergy amongst us, turned out to be an excellent idea. And it has grown my leadership skills. And when I returned home back from the Bahamas, I am going to foster those skills with my community, build programs that will help and invoke the richness of what leadership can do if you only but be a servant first to be a leader in the future.
I'm from the Bahamas, and I found that I've traveled a lot in the world, but I haven't really traveled in the Caribbean. So me coming to Jamaica, it was such an ecstatic experience to realize that we're all the same people. You know, Jamaica might have the mountains, you know, the waterfalls, but we're all the same people. The culture, the friendliness, the hospitality is all the same. And I'm thankful for opportunities like this because I think that I'm able to engage and broaden my horizon to meet with other delegates and other members from other Caribbean countries to realize that, you know, we might be separated by water, but we're the exact same people. So I do see a lot of similarities with Jamaica, specifically that warm hospitality that, you know, is prevalent throughout the Caribbean islands.
What are some benefits that this initiative has made for you?
Wow. First of all, the diversity in all of the candidates taking part, it's amazing. In my cohort, there's no two candidates from the same country. Different ways of thinking, different perspective of life, complete set of strangers living together. There's bound to be conflict. How do we resolve that? So we are looking at conflict resolution. We are looking at honing our leadership skills. We are looking at ethical leadership. Like yesterday, we had a meeting with the Department of Tourism, and they were talking about how Jamaica had to shut down during COVID. And Jamaica receives a lot of revenue from the tourism sector. So that was a crisis, and they had to work with the Ministry of Health to get the economy running back within 90 days. From a situation like that, I was able to learn leadership in time of crisis and ethical leadership. So it's been a lot of learning, unlearning, growing. I am paired with a roommate, somebody from Trinidad and Tobago, two different backgrounds. Every time we come back in the evenings, we get to talk, we get to understand our different ways of seeing things. She learns from me, I learn from her. It's been fantastic.
I think one of the biggest opportunities that we have is being able to bring back some different perspectives. So we're getting to explore a lot of different perspectives from different ministries throughout the Caribbean. We're getting to talk to a ton of different people who are all bringing really, really interesting ideas and thoughts that we're able to kind of then digest and bring back to our work and our home.
Now the program is about leadership, but it's unlike any other program you would have heard of. It's not academic, it's actually immersive, it's about dialogue, it's about introducing these participants who've been specially selected, who we believe could be future global leaders, to meet with other leaders in civil society, in politics, in government, in lots of different areas, because under Prince Philip's vision, he really believed that leaders needed to be nurtured. And if we could have a collaborative effort, having all leaders gain their own skills and emerging into global leaders, we would have a better world.
This type of program allows young Canadians and young Jamaicans and others from this region to get to know each other. Communication and developing the relationships lasts a lifetime. And that's why this program is so good, because it allows people to get to know each other, to relate to each other. They'll have the context right through their lives. And so that's why we support a program like this. Leadership's not an easy thing. It's you have to have courage to be a leader. You've got to be willing to take a step forward and take on that responsibility. And this type of program prepares young people to do that. From experiencing life in Canada and in various countries in this region, that just strengthens their tool set to be leaders here within their own community.
So I think that a major benefit is just learning how to work with people in a stressful situation. You know, we've been traveling a lot. We've just met each other 5 days ago, and we've been working in close quarters and trying to work together to solve problems, whether it be what we have for lunch, how are we going to get to a location, getting content for our presentation. And it's just been a challenge, but it's been a real opportunity for me to grow.
Continue to have strong relations with Canada, and it's important, I think, for us to gather together to reflect, to celebrate, to discuss and continue to find ways to strengthen the partnership and to make sure that whatever we're doing in terms of our policies, our programs, or plans going forward are aligned to the benefit of those that we're serving, the workers, the farmers that are in Canada, and all of the families that are also supported through the partnership between Canada and Jamaica. And this is really beyond just Jamaica, it's about the Caribbean. So, it's an opportunity for us to, again, see how we on this side of the hemisphere can continue to work together towards mutually beneficial understandings. And it's very important, particularly now, for us to ensure that we not only speak about it, but that we get things done. And the way to get things done is to have these kinds of interactions. Sit down face to face, and sometimes it's not even the very formal, but just the informal discussions that you can have at these meetings that make a big difference.
Capacity building, international corporations, those are just a few of the sentiments echoed here at the Caribbean Canada Leaders Dialogue Summit. On behalf of the hard-working production team, I am Melvin Pennant saying this has been PBCJ's Agenda Jamaica. Thank you for watching.